we kind of had a financial crisis. So we moved to Brazil, and I was lucky enough to be immersed in this world of warmth and love and light and energy, and I loved it. I would run around naked in this forest, tussle with the dogs in the mud, getting ticks all over my body, climbing trees, eating guava in the sun, and it was awesome. Also, in Brazil, my extended family consists of about 90% women. So I had 11 cousins, 8 of which were female, and 5 aunts. And so we had this really strong Latin female energy going on. We pretty much lived under the brutal iron fist of an Amazonian matriarchy. Anyways, eventually, we moved back to LA. And here, I was raised in this environment that was super into Eastern philosophy and religion. And we would go to this place called the Holy House, which was kind of a syncretic Buddhist, Taoist, Confucian thing. And the larger cultural center was in Alhambra, California, which was populated almost entirely by Taiwanese people. So as the only non-Taiwanese kid, I would grow up and do these rituals and read the sutras, and we had books at home like the Confucian Analects and the Tao Te Ching. So I was surrounded by this spiritual environment. Also, as a kid, I loved math and science, so seeing the order and structure was fascinating to me. And seeing the order and structure in the natural world, I thought there has to be some spiritual order as well, right? So I really took the worldview to heart, and I thought there was a grand, attainable truth, you know? And I was like, bro, if we've been reincarnating for millennia, and in this lifetime, I have the opportunity to overcome karma, ascend, and attain enlightenment, I'm gonna really try it. Obviously, this happened in Reagan's, though. I was 5. So it wasn't really until middle school or high school where I really seriously contemplated all this stuff. Also, in high school, I had a friend group that was kind of countercultural. So I wouldn't necessarily condone this, but we had an unusual proficiency with drug use. You know, you have your normal high school drugs like weed and alcohol, and we had that, plus our normal high school drugs like LSD, KE, salvia, DMT, peyote, shrooms, etc. Hey, did you know you can get high on toad venom? We were precocious. The funny thing was, though, I was straight edge, so I didn't do any of that stuff. But I contributed my fair share to the insanity. I was just vegetarian, social anarchist who read Chomsky and was obsessed with sustainability. And I made my own club. It was an eco-futurist club called The Island, an approachable utopia based on an anarchist society. Needless to say, having these kind of iconoclastic tendencies sometimes led to these weird situations. One time, my best friend from high school, David, he actually moved away because his born-again Christian parents thought that I was a drug dealer and a bad influence because he got involved with certain activities in our group, and he kind of went a little haywire. But to me, psychedelics were these tools that opened up the questions of what consciousness was, and they really they gave me these questions like who we are, where do we come from, where are we going, why are we here. I always knew though that they were Maya or illusion. The thing is, in psychedelic circles, there can be this tendency to really flex how much you've done a certain drug, or which one within the rank of divine revelation you've consumed. And the flexes can range from, hey man, I was microdosing LSD all last month, and it really opened up my creativity. Shrooms really made me realize that Mother Earth is alive, man. Or, I just got back from a trip to Peru to take ayahuasca, and I realized I am God. Anyway, this friend group was really fun, and we had these great conversations. I I underwent a huge shift in my life, and by the end of sophomore year, I became homeless. So you have like a perception about what that means. What that means about my family, what that means about me and how it's impacted me. And sure, it looks like never really knowing what to put for your permanent home address because you don't know when things will change. Do we still have that P.O. box or no? And it looks like having this subcutaneous fear because you don't know when the rug will be pulled out from under you and you'll lose everything again. And despite the fact that your father has been grinding his bones into meal to literally sustain you. And it looks like going hungry all day and then secretly coming back home and feeling a little bad about eating too much. And it looks like deep crying when you find some food that's spoiled in the fridge and you can't salvage it this time and you have to throw it out, and then having severe buying anxiety when you go to the grocery store and contemplate buying anything more than the bare minimum rations to survive. And in high school, it looks like stealing seconds in the lunch line because you don't even have $2.50 for a reduced lunch after you've received your first lunch free. And it's having to pick the pizza because a PB&J Uncrustable or a flaccid salad with 6 damp croutons isn't enough to keep you full through 6th period, much less until 7 o'clock when you return home to cook after spending all your time in an arts program that reinforces the idea that you're fucking garbage because you don't have access to fancy summer programs or a tutor, or you don't perform because where the fuck is even the energy to live? But guess what? You're still a freaking genius getting A's and APs. And even if you do slip up, you graduate high school with a 4.3 and a SAT. And what the struggle really looks like is rising out of ruin and realizing that sense of justice that is etched into your soul, that means that you're alive and that you have a soul, and you best believe that there are other souls struggle busting out there. So that love that you feel, that love gets you up and out and into UC Berkeley, where you can rep that class struggle and righteous rage, but also like grow your spirit, man. This is definitely not all there is. In undergrad, I continue my search. I'm reading sacred texts like the Bhagavad Gita, exploring things like yoga, and new age stuff like astral projection. Oh, what's astral projection, you ask? Astral projection is this meditational practice kind of similar to Kundalini Yoga, where practitioners self-induce an out-of-body experience by separating their physical body from their astral or spirit body. So, as I'm lying there, breathing, practicing these set of exercises and opening up the energy channels in my body, suddenly, I feel this electricity vibrating throughout my body. And as I start lifting up the highest I had ever lifted up out of my body, suddenly there was something touching my chest. And at the moment of contact, I felt this like pulse or wave of love, and something was communicated to me at the same time. And it said, like, I know you're searching, I know you're looking, but this isn't how you do this. Not here, not now. And immediately, my awareness shifts. And I'm like surrounded by these negative entities with this like killing intent. And it's like a horde of demons is all around me. And they're like, yeah, come out, get out of your body. We want you to come out, boy. So I didn't do that again. Now, with Berkeley being a huge school, I was kind of lonely for a decent part of the beginning, until I found my tribe at Sigma Phi, aka the Thorson House, Berkeley's premier and only grow up. Yeah, Yeah, it was like a house full of hippies and nonconformists that were like kind of in denial about being in the United States' oldest active fraternity. I mean, we were like a co-op, really. Like, we cleaned and like gardened. We lived in this giant treehouse. But still, my brain stem, kept looking for answers, right? So I took all these courses, like this one molecular and cell biology course, which I aced, called Drugs in the Brain, which at Berkeley is exactly what it sounds like. That led to another course called Consciousness, Buddhist and Neuroscientific Perspectives. And here, through an intense citation of sources, I took a deep dive into my own epistemology, or like how I knew what I knew. And at first I was kind of annoyed at the coursework, because I joined this class to learn about my mind, man. But later I realized that I was getting this thorough survey of Buddhist history and all of the sects and their varying viewpoints. And it made me really question, well, how did I know what I have is true? Later that summer, I randomly bumped into my friend from high school, David. You know, the dude who, his parents thought I was a drug dealer and stuff. Well, he says that he's getting back into a personal relationship with Jesus. And he was doing this 40-day prayer and fasting thing. And I was like, all right, dude, you do you. But I kind of realized that I hadn't been exactly intellectually consistent with my openness. I mean, I had my own aversions and preconceived notions of what Christianity was because of the media and, Catholic history. But I took the opportunity to kind of suspend my disbelief and kind of tackle the Bible from its cultural context. And some of the verses were kind of encouraging, about truth and love and all that kind of stuff, but I couldn't really get into it. So, how I became an alien. How it started was, over a period of a week, a bunch of coincidences start happening. I'm sitting on Strawberry Creek, eating my lunch. Oh, that's on campus at Berkeley, by the way. So I'm sitting on campus at Strawberry Creek, eating my lunch, thinking to myself, how can I find the truth so I can help people and save the world? As I'm thinking that last part, save the world, literally some homeless kid shows up across the creek and he's like, hey dude, do you know where all the people trying to save the world are? What? I don't know, I guess I'm trying. He's like, yeah, because I heard all the people that were trying to save the world were in Berkeley. I just took this bus across the country and I've been asking people, but everyone's been ignoring me except you. Okay, thanks, cool. So this set off a chain reaction of coincidence after coincidence after coincidence until at the end of the week, I bump into this kid again, and he's telling me this vision he had of this vision with a sense of urgency and this impending doom, and he's like, Judgment Day is coming. And I'm like, okay. The next morning was game day at Cal, so that's football, everybody. And while the rest of frat row is reveling in debauchery, the Thorson house is wrapping up our Saturday morning workday. Cleaning up, gardening. Oh, sick bonsai, bro. Washing dishes, wrapping up. I look out the window, and then I see this dude walking down the street holding this cross that says Judgment Day on it. and then all of a sudden, some cops come up to him and either give him a citation or tell him to stop or something. And then I was overcome with this feeling of compassion for some reason. What makes a person do that? It's so easy to write people off as crazy, half the stuff that I've experienced in my life, most people would call me crazy. But I saw this guy, and all of a sudden I was reminded of these scriptures that I had read over the summer, if you have a humble and contrite heart, or seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be open to you. And so I just was looking at him, and didn't even really realize it, but I just started walking. And I go up to this guy, and immediately he starts breaking apart all of the preconceptions that I have about what a Christian even looks like. He's like this old Japanese dude who used to be like a Zen Buddhist monk, which is crazy because that's kind of like what I grew up with. And he's like breaking apart all of these things that I was raised with. And like in the middle of the insanity of game day, he's the most centered, sane person around. And like people are like walking by and jeering and like spitting at him and saying, "Suck my dick," and all this stuff. And like he's just entreating and like extending love. And he's like, "I know why you would say that, but do you want to like talk?" And then I start feeling like I'm in a dream, because this is weird. I feel like I'm in a bubble, and he like asks to pray for me and my sins, and I'm like, okay. And after, he gives me this little pamphlet that says how to know God with like scriptures in it, and he's like, look, it's not about me telling you what the truth is and what's right. It's about you going to God and asking him yourself. And so, take the pamphlet, go back to my room, and I start freaking out. I'm like, what is going on right now? This is not something that I ever thought I would contemplate. Like, who can I even talk to about this? No one in my hippie frat, because everyone's on acid today. And then I remember my friend David, right? So I get my phone, and I text him. I'm like, hey, man. No reply. Hey, man, I'm like reevaluating my spiritual ideals and like my relationship with Christ. And that last part, I like literally deliberated for like 3. Yeah, see that face right there? I was like, what is this? This is like corny. What does that even mean, right? And I was like, no, don't send it, but I sent it. And to David, who was in the middle of like this important prayer thing, you know, very busy, he said that was a red flag because, so he's like, yeah, man, what's up? And I said, yeah, I'm just like going through some stuff. Do you mind if I talk to you? And he's like, and I was gonna call him. And he's like, yeah, for sure. I'll be there in 25 minutes. What? It's like, yeah, I've been in like Oakland doing this 40-day prayer and fasting thing for a holiness movement to break out of it. Yeah, you told me that, but like, we were in LA, you don't have to like be near the place to like pray for it. Like, no, yeah, I've been here. Okay, yes, please, come. And so he comes, and I tell him everything that's happening. And he says, so do you mind if I like pray for you? And I'm like, okay. So I put my hands on my knees, sit on my bed, puts his hands on my hands, and he starts praying. And by this point, like, my mind is racing. Like, this isn't something that I ever thought I never thought I'd be here, like, thinking about this. Like, I spent my whole life trying to attain some kind of knowledge and figure stuff out on my own, and, like, this week has been insane. Like, I don't know, maybe Jesus is God, like, so I was, like, really, like, freaking out, and I realized, like, I had spent all my life reading and trying to figure stuff out, but there was, like, really no way that I could ever make an educated guess about what the truth was, because, like, how do we know anything? I could be like a brain in a vat hallucinating y'all. Stoicism. But the moment that I conceded that, and I recognized that, like, there was no way that I could close the gap on my own, I thought, God, like, if you're real, Jesus, if you're real, like, I don't care what the truth is, I don't care what happens to me, just please show me. And then suddenly, I get this vision of this black blob becoming brittle at the center of my stomach. And then all of a sudden these flames erupt, and these flames start flicking away at this blob, and it starts disintegrating. And as the blob disintegrates, all of a sudden these flames start spreading to the rest of my body, and I feel this warmth. And then suddenly, like, I start shaking, like, uncontrollably, shaking out of nowhere. And, like, I leave my body, and I'm looking in, and I have no idea what's going on. And as I'm shaking, all of a sudden, I start speaking in tongues, which I didn't even know was a thing. And I'm, like, shaking and speaking in tongues, and, like, shaking and speaking in tongues, and, like, shaking and shaking. then it stops. And suddenly I feel something enter from the top of my head and go down to where that blob was in my chest. And with it comes this, it's like overwhelming feeling of just like love, peace, and bliss. It's like, how do you feel that kind of love? Like I couldn't contain it in my body. It was like a mother cradling her child, except it was like being cradled by God. And I got this like gentle nudge, and it said, Jesus is God. And I knew. And then I turned to my friend David. He's understandably a little freaked out. But I say, what just happened? And he says, kind of casual, yeah, you received the Holy Spirit. It's like one of the three persons of God. He's like the comforter, and he guides us into all truth and peace and righteousness. And like I felt it. It wasn't this, like I wasn't thinking these things, and it wasn't just a voice in my head. It was like this presence within me that was deep and compelling and warm. And then I realized, this is it. Like I spent my whole life trying to look for stuff or to like attain some kind of knowledge, and I didn't become an alien. I always was an alien. I was always searching for something outside this earth. And yeah, just found it. It's free.